Hello, welcome back to the channel. And if you are ARMY, you're going to want to hear this one from start to finish, because the numbers behind this story are honestly insane. BTS member Jimin has officially been crowned the artist most destined for the fashion runway. And this is not some casual internet poll with a handful of votes thrown together. This comes from Picnic, the fan voting platform that runs weekly polls in collaboration with the Korea Jungkook Daily, one of South Korea's most respected news outlets. And the scale of this particular vote is what makes it so undeniable. Jimin did not just win, he dominated. He topped the poll with 32,629 votes, leaving James of the boy band Chorus in second place with 26,420 votes, and Gaewon of the girl group Meve in third with 15,359 votes. Read those numbers again. This was not close. This was not a narrow margin decided by a handful of superfans staying up late refreshing a voting page. This was a landslide. And here is the detail that truly puts this into perspective. This poll ran for 2 full weeks, from July 10th to July 24th, and it drew participants from an astonishing 175 countries. Think about that for a second. 175 countries, all weighing in on who deserves the title of the artist most suited for the runway. And out of every single idol, every model, every artist in the running, the world chose Jimin. This is not a regional fan base voting for their favorite. This is a truly global audience, spanning nearly every corner of the planet, coming together to say the same thing. Jimin belongs on the runway, and everyone, everywhere, seems to already know it. And it is worth pointing out just how strong the competition actually was. James of Chorus is no small name in this conversation, a rising star already building his own reputation for sharp, distinctive style. And Gaewon of Meve has been turning heads as one of the most talked about new visuals in the girl group scene. These were not weak contenders padding out a poll. These were genuinely formidable names in the fashion conversation. And Jimin still pulled ahead by a margin of over 6,000 votes against second place alone. So let's talk about how this poll actually worked, because the criteria here matter a lot. According to Picnic, fans were not just voting based on who looked the cutest in a magazine spread or who had the most trending photo that week. The voting was based on 3 specific categories: fashion sense, brand power, and stage presence. 3 completely different pillars, and Jimin swept all of them in the eyes of voters. Fashion sense speaks to his personal style and his ability to consistently make bold choices that actually work. Brand power speaks to his influence and reach as a global fashion figure, someone brands actively want associated with their name. And stage presence speaks to something a little harder to quantify, that undeniable magnetism he brings the moment he steps in front of a crowd or a camera. Winning across all 3 is what makes this title feel earned rather than just symbolic, and it also explains why the margin of victory was so wide. It is one thing to win on looks alone. It is an entirely different thing to sweep 3 separate categories at once, against a field that included idols, models, and rising stars from every corner of the industry. Now let's get into exactly why Jimin was the clear choice here, because his fashion resume genuinely speaks for itself. Jimin currently serves as a global ambassador for Dior, one of the most prestigious fashion houses in the entire world, and this past June, he attended Paris Fashion Week for the Spring-Summer 2027 collection, stepping out in an Edwardian-inspired velvet coat that immediately drew massive attention from the global fashion industry and international media. This is not a small detail. Paris Fashion Week is one of the most scrutinized fashion events on the planet, filled with editors, designers, and critics who do not hand out praise easily. And Jimin's appearance there became one of the standout moments of the entire event. An Edwardian-inspired silhouette is a bold, historically rich choice, the kind of look that could easily overwhelm someone without the right presence to carry it. And yet, by every account, Jimin made it look effortless. But here is where the story goes even bigger, because Jimin's influence in fashion is not just limited to red carpets and front-row seats at runway shows. It extends into something almost unheard of for a performer, and it involves one of the biggest sporting events on the entire planet. During BTS's halftime show performance at the 2026 FIFA World Cup final, Jimin wore a specific shirt on stage, and that exact shirt was later auctioned off at Christie's as part of the One Goal charity auction, benefiting the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. And the final price it sold for was staggering, $110,000. Let that number sink in for a second. A shirt Jimin wore during a live performance sold for $110,000 at one of the most prestigious auction houses in the world. And here is the detail that makes it even more remarkable. That price tied exactly with the amount fetched for the official match ball used in the World Cup final itself. Think about what that actually means. Jimin's performance shirt sold for the same price as the literal ball used to decide the champion of the entire World Cup. That is not just fashion influence. That is cultural influence on a level that transcends music entirely, and every single dollar from that auction is going toward an incredible cause, supporting educational opportunities and expanding football access for children in underserved communities around the world. And then there is the moment that really seemed to tip the scales during the voting period itself, a moment that had absolutely nothing to do with a red carpet or a designer runway, and everything to do with pure, spontaneous stage charisma. During BTS's concert at Gillette Stadium in Massachusetts, Jimin surprised fans with a braided hair accent that nobody was expecting. The venue's massive LED screens captured the moment in stunning detail, and within minutes, images of his new look were spreading across social media like wildfire. Global pop culture accounts, including the widely followed Popcore, picked up on the moment almost immediately, and it quickly became one of those viral flashes that dominates timelines for days. Picnic itself specifically noted this moment as part of what fueled the online buzz around Jimin during the voting window, which tells you just how much a single spontaneous styling choice, something as simple as a braid, can ripple outward and influence a massive international vote. It is proof that Jimin does not need a designer gown or a couture runway to make a fashion statement. Sometimes all it takes is one unexpected detail on a concert stage, captured by a screen, shared by fans, and suddenly the entire internet is talking about it. A spokesperson for Picnic spoke directly about why this particular category matters so much in today's entertainment landscape, and honestly, the quote hits at something bigger than just this one poll. They explain that fashion is one of the most intuitive brand metrics for demonstrating an artist's personality and global reach. In other words, how an artist dresses, how they carry themselves, and how they are perceived stylistically has become one of the clearest windows into who they really are as a public figure and as a brand. And the spokesperson went further, pointing out that the results of this particular poll, drawing participants from 175 countries, show that fan interest in Jimin extends well beyond music into fashion and lifestyle. This is a massive statement. It means that Jimin's appeal is not just tied to being a member of one of the biggest bands in the world. His individual identity as a style icon has grown into something that stands entirely on its own, something fans are actively seeking out and voting for, completely separate from his music career. So let's zoom out for a second and really think about what this all adds up to. In one single conversation, we have a landslide voting victory spanning 175 countries. We have a Dior global ambassadorship and a headline making appearance at Paris Fashion Week in an Edwardian velvet coat. We have a performance shirt from the biggest sporting event on the planet selling for $110,000 at Christie's, tying with the price of the actual World Cup final match ball. And we have a single spontaneous braided hairstyle at a concert going viral enough to be specifically cited as a factor in a major fashion poll. When you line all of these moments up together, it becomes incredibly clear why Korean media chose to frame this the way they did. This is not a fluke. This is not a one-time viral moment that will be forgotten in a week. This is a pattern, a consistent, undeniable pattern of Jimin's presence and influence extending far beyond music into an entirely different industry, and doing so at the absolute highest level. And for ARMY, this feels like such a full circle moment, because fans have been saying this for years, long before headlines caught up to it. Watching Jimin's evolution, from stage outfits to airport looks to red carpet appearances, has always felt like watching someone who was simply built for this. And now here we have actual data behind it. Real votes, from real people, across 175 different countries, all pointing to the same conclusion. It is one thing to feel like your favorite artist deserves recognition. It is an entirely different thing to see that recognition backed by numbers this massive, this global, and this specific. It also says something bigger about where the entire K-pop industry is heading right now. An industry that used to be seen strictly as a music business is increasingly being recognized as a driving force in global fashion, and moments like this one prove that idols are not just adjacent to that world anymore. They are actively shaping it. And here is the part that honestly no one saw coming when this whole poll first opened. Nobody, not even the most confident ARMY, expected the final margin to be this massive. This was supposed to be a competitive race between three genuinely strong contenders, each with real fan bases, real style credentials, and real momentum going into the vote. Instead, what unfolded over those 2 weeks was something closer to a coronation than a contest. Every single day the numbers climbed. The gap between Jimin and second place kept widening rather than closing, and by the time voting closed on July 24th, it was not even a debate anymore. It was a statement, delivered by 175 countries at once, loud enough that Korean media could not ignore it. What makes this even more exciting is thinking about what comes next. If a fashion shirt worn during a single performance can sell for $110,000, and if a spontaneous hairstyle change during a concert can go viral enough to influence an international vote, it raises the question of just how much further this fashion trajectory can go. Could we see Jimin stepping into even bigger roles within the fashion world beyond his current ambassadorship? Could this poll victory open doors to opportunities we have not even considered yet? Given everything laid out here, the Dior ambassadorship, the Paris Fashion Week headlines, the record-breaking charity auction, and now this landslide poll victory, it genuinely feels like Jimin's fashion era is only just beginning to reach its full scale. So here is the real takeaway from all of this. Out of every artist considered, spanning genres and countries and industries, fans around the entire world looked at the full picture: the Dior ambassadorship, the Paris runway moments, the record-setting charity auction, the viral concert styling, and they made their decision clear. Jimin is the artist most destined for the runway, and honestly, after everything we just went through, it is hard to argue with that. Make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, because between the ongoing tour, the fashion world, and everything happening around Jimin right now, this story is far from over. Drop a comment below telling me which part of this story surprised you the most, whether it was the vote count, the Christie's auction price, or that viral braided hairstyle moment, because I genuinely want to know. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.